Thanks for tuning in and welcome to IMRU Radio Magazine. I'm Abby Dees.
And I'm Wenzel Jones.
Tonight, Vash Bodhi reports from the Tribeca Film Festival on a film that's at OUTFEST, Gay Chorus Deep South.
And we chat in studio with Mark Patton, the star of Nightmare on Elm Street 2, about the OUTFEST documentary Scream Queen, My Nightmare on Elm Street.
But first, the honest tea. This is all about human rights. And human rights are not currently in an upswing.
No, they're not doing well at all.
Let's start with Asylum.
We can't hear enough about Asylum.
No, we can't. But there is a new asylum policy that has been announced. Not the first new asylum policy that has been announced this year, and we'll get to some of the earlier ones. But the newest one requires asylum-seeking immigrants who pass through a third country en route to the U.S. must first apply for refugee status in that country rather than at the U.S. border, or they become ineligible for asylum in the U.S.
And this is specifically the southern border.
It's the southern border.
Not that you're going to walk through Canada from anywhere, but...
There's a funny little twist for this.
I know, I was going to ask you about that because that is where my face started to hurt. It was so confusing to me.
The Washington Examiner article?
Yes.
Okay. Washington Examiner, if you do not know, is not the Washington Post.
No.
Notoriously conservative newspaper, but even they published a very interesting article about LGBTQ migrants in this situation, saying that they had talked to border officials who say they are well aware that it is U.S. policy that LGBTQ people are exempt from the Remain in Mexico policy, meaning that they should be allowed to stay in the U.S. because of the threats to their lives.
Which would be lovely if it were, written down somewhere.
It's not written down anywhere.
And that's the best part. It's not written down because if they wrote it down, then everybody would find out and they would just come to the border and
start
say,
saying, I'm gay.
I'm gay. So that's why it's not written down, but it's true, but it's not true.
The Commission on Unalienable Rights.
Which is such a creepy... I know, it's come up before, and it's such a creepy title to begin with.
Let's pause for a second. What are unalienable rights?
Well, apparently, they're based on natural law.
Yes. Well, in law school, you learn... I mean, this is like in our Declaration of Independence, it says that, we are all endowed by our Creator. And remember, put an asterisk around Creator.
Yeah.
With certain unalienable rights. Unalienable means basically you can't give them away, sell them.
Right.
You never waive your rights.
Right.
But that Creator thing is what this is all about. So Secretary of State Michael Pompeo announced the formation of this commission on unalienable rights a few months back, and we talked about it, to ostensibly provide advice on human rights and, quote, re-examine unalienable rights since the 1948 Universal Declaration on Human Rights.
And I feel like we're sitting in a hen house staring at a whole row of foxes.
We are. So here's an example of what we mean. And to back up for a second, the core of this thing is to look at human rights in the context of natural law. That is not natural law like the theory of gravity or perhaps the theory of evolution. No, it's natural law, meaning law created by our Creator.
Yeah.
Okay. Which we can,
and we've been talking about that pretty much every week.
Reasonable folks might disagree about this, not going to get into that argument, but that's a religious principle. And here's an example. It means God created man and woman, and thus natural law says that they should only hook up with each other and stay men and women. That's just natural law. This is what we're talking about. So a couple of weeks ago, that commission was formally launched, and now we have a clearer idea of what they're up to. So.
Well, I think the people they're...